Okay guys, welcome back to Potions class. Today we're going to be making the Dragon's Blood Potion from the Miniverse Harry Potter Potions capsules. And I'm going to be making mine a little bit different. But first, before I start making this in real time, not in edited video time, I have made a mold of these. But that is going to come after Potions class, even though we're going to be doing this in the before. So we're doing a little time traveling this morning. Alright, so let's take a look at our potions book, and this is a video on my channel if you want to check that out. And let's see the instructions for the Dragon's Blood Potion. So here are the directions for the Dragon's Blood Potion. These are all of the ingredients that we got. It says to mix the potion, pour it into the capsule, into the potion bottle, mix the second item, then pour that one into the potion bottle, and cure. Then we'll put on our labels, write our labels, and put our toppers on, and we'll have our finished Dragon's Blood potions. Now, I love their potions, but these are memory vials, so I'm going to recreate a memory vial look rather than the Dragon's Blood Potion in the instructions. So I'm not going to be using the instructions for this one. What I am going to do is I'm going to pull this from my potion ingredients. This was from Skelly Grow, and I am going to reuse that to create a very kind of thick white swirly potion ingredient. Now I have a little bit of resin here in the center of this silicone mold. I'm not using the mold to create something, I'm just using it to hold my resin. And then I have some little bendable wire, and I am going to create some swirls with this wire. Some kind of sort of loose kind of swirls, such as, I'm going to kind of measure that. I made it a little bit too long. Cut some of this off. That looks pretty good. There's one. Now I need another one. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is add this to my resin. And stir. And the next thing I need to do is cover my metal. Okay, push that down in there. A little bit of a cool look in there. And now I'll do the other one. Okay. So we've got this part in there, and I love how it looks. I think it looks pretty cool. And we just need to add our little bit of clear, and then we'll cure it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on there for right now, and pour this in. I'm going to pour it slow because it's going to take some time to get down because that's in there. Something else I want to show you. So it's only gone down to like right here, but you can tell the difference in the way this looks kind of magnified, and this is just normal. So once that clear goes down in there, it's gonna look really cool, I think. Okay, so I've got my 2 memory vials completed, and now it's time to put the labels on. There we go. I love it. I love it. I love it. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so those are finished up. Now we'll continue on, and I will show you how to make molds and show you what this project is, the DIY project is for this week. Alright, so I'm starting off creating my mold, and I'm just using some very thin acrylic sheet, which you can find on Amazon. And I have placed a little piece of double stick tape, heavy duty double stick tape, on a stamping block, an acrylic stamping block from Dollar Tree. I have stuck my vials to that double stick tape to hold them in place, and then I am positioning the acrylic sheets kind of spiral design to create a surround for the mold. After that, I used hot glue to seal every single edge that was connected to prevent the silicone from leaking out. Okay, so now that I have my little enclosure done, I just used the acrylic stamp block, but you can use any acrylic, and this is some super thin acrylic that you can score with a X-Acto knife and then snap to break it into little pieces. I just made them tall enough, and I made them wider because I don't need to cut it down to the exact dimensions, and then I can reuse these for other things. So I just did that, and then sealed the corners with hot glue all the way around every single corner, all the way across here and up the seam. You do have to keep an eye on these just in case there's any kind of a leak, because silicone will find a spot, even if it's just the tiniest pinhole of a spot when you're pouring this, and it will escape. That's why you want to be very careful and make sure that you seal every single place thoroughly. No breaks, no holes in the glue, nothing like that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and I'm going to be using Let's Resin silicone rubber, and it is a mix ratio of 1:1 by weight. That means you have to weigh it out. It's not volume based, like you can't do you know, the same measurement in a cup, because it will not cure correctly. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Just got my little scale here, set my cup on, tear it out, and then we could pour in the silicone. This thoroughly and completely. Alright, now that I've mixed this thoroughly and scraped the sides and really scraped the bottom, I'm just going to let that set and let the bubbles pop. As you can see, they're already starting to come to the top and pop on their own. This silicone is really good about that. So I'm just going to let it pop, and maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll pour it. Alright, time to pour. I'm going to pick a spot in the corner here to pour in a slow, very fine stream And that is so that I can kind of pop the bubbles as it stretches to go in there. And pour it from high up. And I'm not going to move it around. I'm just going to allow it to fill the whole thing from that same spot. And that is going to prevent me from trapping bubbles in there. All right, there it is, all filled up. And just gonna have to wait till tomorrow. So now I will say that you want to set this on something that you're not worried about. If it leaks, it's not going to ruin it. You can set it on top of another piece of acrylic or down inside of a plastic tray would be the best idea. Something with sides that can catch anything that might leak out. There's always a risk when you make a mold like this that the silicone can find a pinhole somewhere and leak and make a mess. So you want to be prepared for that to happen. You want to anticipate that happening, even if it doesn't, right? Because it'll be so much easier to clean up if you have a space for it. So keep an eye on it for at least like maybe the first hour. Keep checking it every 5 or so minutes. You'd be surprised how much silicone can leak out in 5 minutes. So just keep an eye on it and make, double check that you're you don't have any stray liquid starting to come out. So just keep an eye on it. You've been warned. Okay, and it's basically cured. It's a tiny bit sticky, but the Let's Resin, it feels sticky, but it's not actually sticky. There's no residue. So I'm just going to start to pulling apart the edges. And this should just peel right off of that. Clean your glue off. Oh, that one broke. These are pretty thin pieces. It's usually better to use something a little lighter. Broke that one too. I'm being too quick with it. Usually, if you take your time, you can expect to salvage those and reuse them. These are cured now. Ready. You can kind of see them in there a little bit. See how easily this stuff cuts. I'm only going to go going in a zigzag line here, and that helps me to close it correctly. I learned that from my mother. She used to carve waxes for jewelry, and she used to make her own molds for her waxes, rubber molds, and that's how she would cut the molds so that they would line up perfectly when you put the sides back together. You could just do a straight line, but that straight line is going to be difficult to make sure you've got it lined up right, if that makes sense. Okay. There we go. Our mold is good. This will make it easier to pull future ones out. Oh, my lid's in there. I gotta get my lid. There we go. Now when I go to make these, I'll just put some rubber bands around those, and that should keep those from leaking any kind of resin. So there we go. I've got my molds, easy open, easy access, and ready to go. And then I've got my originals that I can create my potions in. Now, I have seen a lot of people making molds of these and then making the reproductions and selling them. And that is not okay. Like, I don't know how they think that's okay, but it's actually not okay. That is copyright infringement. Recreating something that a company has already made and then reselling it is copyright infringement. You can make a mold and you can create things for yourself that you do not sell. That's up to you. I mean, that's your stuff. You can do what you want with it, right? But making a duplicate of something and then selling it, that is not okay. Don't do that, people. Don't do that. It's not okay. Make your own mold, make your own duplicates for yourself if you absolutely have to. But anyway, there's my little things, and now I can make a few more. I should be able to make a few more. And gonna create something cool with that. Okay, so here are my two originals. This is my mold. And then I went ahead and made a duplicate with UV resin. I'm just using Nic Pro UV resin. And I think they turn out pretty cool. Of course, they're not hollow. Now you could, in theory, create a two-part mold. You know, take the lids off, create a mold of the lids, and then pour your silicone down in there. My thought was that it's a very long, narrow piece that would have to go in the center there, and it would be very, very difficult to line up. Just because the silicone would want to stick to itself down here, and you'd end up having a hole on this side or a hole, you know, it would be very hard to get it to line up perfectly. So that's why I went ahead and made it all one piece, and I think, you know, just for the display that I'm going to make, this is going to work out pretty well. Get my little label. I'm going to have to create some labels to go on there, but for the most part, that's going to be just fine for the display I'm going to make. I don't have to have it, you know, have an, you know, something on the inside. Now, what you could do if you wanted a different color is you could pour the bottom, cure it, pour the center, cure it, and then pour the top, the center, and then pour the bottom, and cure it, and then you'll have, you know, clear, colorful, clear, and that would look like a little potion bottle, but not necessary for mine. You could also take this and use some alcohol ink and color this part. You could color the back of it so that it is colored. You can see how my finger on the back would just color it. You can add some color that way. Lots of ways you can add some color to those. So really, I'm just going to pour this on one side. I'm just going to do it very, very slowly and allow it to fill the whole thing. Now, the first one I tried, this silicone does stick to itself pretty well, so I didn't have to tie the sides, and it didn't leak. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this, maybe just because it's such a tiny mold. There's not a lot of pressure on it, so I don't have to worry about it too much. So I'm just going to do one, and then I'm going to cure the sides to make sure it doesn't leak out, and then I'll pour the other one and cure that side, and then I can, you know, work on curing both of them the whole way. Now, I will say that it's hard to get it to cure all the way through this kind of milky clear. So what you'd have to do is cure from all sides for a decent amount of time, maybe a few minutes for each side, until it is just basically the outer shell is cured enough that it's sturdy enough to pull it out of the mold, and then once it's pulled out of the mold, the inside is still going to be liquid, and you can kind of like squeeze it, like squeeze the sides, and you can tell that the inside is liquid because it moves. So then, you know, once it's out of the mold, then you can cure it all the way and do the final cure on it, and you won't have any problems there. Cure from this side, and you can see the light goes in, but it doesn't go all the way, like, so that you can get kind of a shell, but curing the very center of it will be difficult this way. I'm just going to cure that and we'll be back. Okay, got those cured. I got both of them poured and cured. Just going to open it up. They're still pretty warm. There's that one. Actually, that one cured pretty well, but I am still going to throw it in so you can see a tiny bit of that zigzag line on the side. And you can just kind of scratch away any flash that comes on it. Let's pull out the second one. As you can see, there's a little bit of flash right there, but that's really easy to remove. This picks right off. Run a fingernail down the side and you're done. Look how cute. So cool. That was pretty simple, and you can make up several of those for the next project. So now that we're done there, I think we're gonna move on. And yeah, I think I'm going to make a few more for the project that I have in mind, and we're going to move on to the next part. Here I am scoring some lines on a sheet of 12 by 16 centimeter chipboard so I can fold them into my outer walls. Now I created a pattern in a 2 centimeter by 3.1 centimeter tall area. And I kind of took some reference material from the Dumbledore's memory cabinet from the movies, just to kind of get some details in there. And now I'm just cutting out that pattern piece so that I can transfer it to my walls. So I'm just cutting this out with my X-Acto knife. Excuse the paint under my fingernails. But I'm just taking this and kind of tracing around all this parts with my X-Acto knife just very lightly so that I don't cut through my template. And then after I have done that, then I go back through and cut each section out. It's taking a lot of time, but it'll be worth it in the end. I think it's going to be fun. I'm just seeing how they fit to motivate myself to keep on cutting. Now this is the acrylic ink that I have. It's just a gold Amsterdam acrylic ink, number 803. It has a beautiful sheen to it. I picked this up on the clearance section because it had a leak. And yeah, I just love the shine of it. It's pretty amazing stuff. It works really great on porous surfaces. So I'm just going to take that and I'm going to paint the front and backs of all the pieces. So now I'm just taking a sheet from one of the fronts of the Miniverse case boxes, I guess. I just scored the plastic on there to create some windows for this cabinet. Okay, that took some doing. So I did cut this out by hand with an X-Acto knife. And I had severe X-Acto knife claw after that, because ow. Yeah, that was a thing. Then I coated it in wood glue and let that dry. I learned that technique from Bentley House Minis, and that kind of thickened it up and gave it a little stability. I painted the front side, and then I painted both sides with gold acrylic ink, and that dries super fast. It's not super wet, so it doesn't make the chipboard, you know, warp or bubble up or anything like that, but it has such a beautiful gold color. I love it. So I've got that part. I have a top and bottom piece. Now I cut the octagons for the different layers. The ones that go on the inside, each of the sides is 2 centimeters wide. So that's how big my octagon is. Then I traced it with a dull pencil so it would have a pretty good lip, and cut that out. And that gave me this, and these sides are approximately 2.1 centimeters, so they're just a little bit bigger. There's a little bit of a lip here, and that's going to go on the inside, and then the larger part is going to go underneath. So like the walls are going to fit right there on the top and the bottom, like so. So those are going to go like that. This one's going to go in the middle. That's going to be a certain type of difficult, trying to get those glued in correctly. But I did take some of the clear packaging from, hang on here. I did take some of the clear packaging from one of the Miniverse boxes and cut little windows that I now have to glue in before I glue everything together. So that's what I'm doing next. Gluing in a million windows. Okay, got all of those glued in. Look how cool they're looking. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be so cute. I cannot wait. My evil craft laugh. I don't know what that means, but you guys are welcome to come along. Join in my madness. Anyway, so here I've got this all glued in. So the first thing I think I need to do is glue the center in, hopefully. That's the idea. I had to go in and lightly sand the edges to kind of bevel them a little bit. Because some of these little windows are going to be closer together than I had planned. So I need to make sure that this can fit in between each one. Now this is not actually the first Dumbledore's memory cabinet that I've ever made. I created one a while back using computer parts and an old clock. And this is what it looks like. If you'd like to see that video, I will link it in the description box below. It's been several years since I made this, but it's like a little lamp that rotates and dims, and I just love how it turned out. So you can check out that video in the description box. Alright, so I've just got the bottom and the top just kind of popped on. They're not glued on yet, but that's kind of what it's going to look like. And I'm loving what it's turning out to be. So it's pretty much following what I had in my head. So that's always a good thing. It didn't go off on its own. My next step is to make some more bottles because I don't have enough made. And then I have to make some labels, and then I can go on to decorating. I have to figure out a base, and I have to figure out how I want to do the detailed top. So that's all a process that I'm gonna have to go through. Okay, so we've got all these bottles, and I'm definitely going to need some labels for them. So I dug in my stash, and I found this really old sheet of tracing paper. It didn't come that color. It's just become that color over time. And it's a little darker at the edges than it was in the center, so I just pulled off one of these edges. I created some labels, templates, and then I just traced them all onto the tracing paper. And now I just gotta have to go through, I'm gonna trace around it so that the edges are a little darker, probably with some ink or something, and then I have to write all the labels on there, so that's gonna be fun. Most of them I think I'm gonna try to do kind of an illegible script, or maybe I'll look in my stamp stash and see if I've got something that'll work in there. Alright, so I got all these traced onto this really old piece of tracing paper. I found some stamps in my stash that had some kind of like illegible scripty type designs on them. So I kind of picked out some different ones to stamp. I've started cutting them out, and I also took some distress ink and a little makeup dauber and just kind of added a little bit of variation in color and cutting them out and ready to put them on the bottles. Okay, so I found this at Dollar Tree, and I went specifically looking for something I could use for the base for the memory cabinet, and I found these little plastic goblets, and I think this will make a cool base if I paint it with the acrylic ink. And so I just got to take my rotary cutter here and cut it right here. I'm going to draw a line around it so I can cut it in a straight line, and I think that'll make a good base to bring it up to attach it to the bottom of that. So when you cut it with a rotary tool, it gets hot and it kind of melts the plastic. So it's got all these little burrs on it, and I'm just going to use a pair of wire cutters to snip off all the little burrs. And after that, I'll take a little nail file and just kind of sand everything kind of smooth so there's no sharp points. Now I'm thinking I need to put some light in there, because when you put the top on, it's gonna get kind of dark in there and it's gonna be hard to see. So I think I'm gonna put this little strand of lights in there. I'm gonna try to bring it down through the top, run it inside the top lid, straight down through the middle, and inside the bottom. You're probably gonna be able to see, you know, the line, but it's the wire, but it is pretty thin, so hopefully it'll be hidden in the center at least a little bit. Yeah, I think that's going to be cute. Okay, so I just took some coffee stir sticks, cut them in half lengthwise with an X-Acto knife, And then I took a wide one and a half one and I glued them all together to create these little pieces of trim. And then I'm going to be using those pieces of trim around the bottom, the middle, and the top. Okay, so I tried the gold ink, the acrylic ink on that, and it would not stick. I thought it would because it did stick to like this bottle, but maybe that's because maybe it was super thick or something. But it does not stick to plastic, so I used, my kiddo suggested a Posca pen, so I used a white Posca pen, and it stuck just fine, so I covered that. I did a little test on the bottom to make sure it would work. You can see that area there is what it looks like without the Posca pen, and then that area is what it looks like with. So I went ahead and covered the whole thing with Posca, and then after that's dry I will add the ink, a few layers of that, and that should be matchy. Okay, so now I'm just working on the top. I just made a little cone out of half of a circle, rolled it up and glued it together, and then I'm just adding some details. These are the pieces that I cut out of the centers here. I'm just cutting them down and gluing them on, just adding detail as much as I can. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on now. And then the top, I had to cut a slit in the top because I forgot to run the wire through the top before I ran it down. So I had to cut a slit in the top, and now I'm fixing to glue the lights on the inside of the top. And after I get that glued down, then my little topper is going to go right here. And I cut a little circle, or cut a little square where the button for the lights is, so I can get to the light switch. Yeah, so that's coming along. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken a bunch of coffee stir sticks and I have glued them together to create a double width. Then I took these and I cut them down because they weren't long enough. I'm gonna have to double them up. Those are going to be right there, and then these ones are longer, and I cut a point at the top, and then those will be right here to add some details. All I can do is paint these gold now. Alright, so I took all of those sticks and I stuck them to some painter's tape and painted them all gold. And now I'm just adding some glue details with some art glitter glue. It has a fine tip so you can draw on some details, and I'm just going to let that dry, and then I'm going to paint over that to kind of give some dimension and details to the columns. Okay, so I just found this little set of like wooden miniature kitchen tools at the thrift store for 25 cents. I was looking for a topper for this area up here, and I kind of liked the way that this little thing looked, but I didn't like how bulbous it was. It already had a hole pre-drilled for the wires for the whisk to go into, so I just took it, pulled the wires out, and then shoved it into a pencil sharpener to kind of slowly get the shape that I wanted. So I like that a lot better, and now it has a hole that I can widen out a little bit, and then I can glue it right on top to add a little bit of something detail it there. Okay, so finally I added some little glue details to the top here just to give a little bit more detail and dimension. And I have painted over the glue on these, and it really makes it stand out a lot. Looks pretty good. Alright, so slowly getting these glued on, and what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of the art glitter glue and I'm drawing a line down the center of the back, down the middle, and then I'm leaving two areas kind of evenly dispersed where I'm adding the tiniest drop of hot glue, and what that's doing is it's just allowing me to stick the piece on, and the hot glue grabs long enough for the other glue to dry. So then it's got a nice strong bond, and I can just work quickly and move around and around the piece, adding the details. Okay, so right now I'm just taking these strips that I had created with the half half stir stick and a full stir stick, and glued together and painted to create some little pieces of trim. And now I am just fitting that trim right here on each one. So I have to cut each one to fit the correct space. And then I'm just sanding it at an angle to create a bevel so that it would fit between those two columns. Check it, and if it doesn't fit, I sand it some more. And when it fits, then I glue it on. So that's what it's starting to look like, and you can see the difference between where there's not any and where there is, and it just adds a certain amount of dimension and detail that is really going to make this stand out. Guys, I think I'm finished with this. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Got a little bit of detail up there, and yeah, let's put it in the potions classroom and see what it looks like lit up. Okay guys, so I have got it lit up and in the potions classroom. Check it out. All the details. I absolutely love how that turned out. You can see all of the memory vials inside. Got lots of details. And while it's not an exact replica, it is good enough. It took so much time just to get that bit of detail in there. Cutting out all the pieces. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun making that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video this week. Hit that like button and that subscribe button. And I guess we'll see you in the next Magical Miniature Mondays. Bye!